In our prayers, those who say the 18 Shmona Esrei Brachas, the third blessing, which talks about God's holiness, Ata Kodesh, you are holy, Shimcha Kodesh, and your name is holy, Doshim, holy ones will always praise you. Blessed are you, God. We end off all the time, a whole year, Hakel HaKodesh, the Almighty, who is holy. But starting Rosh Hashana, for this 10 days till after Yom Kippur, after Ne'ilah, we will say the Holy King. We have to mention God as a king during these 10 days, that he is judging us, close to us, encouraging us, loving us, and scaring us, and doing everything he can to nudge us and to push us into doing what we're supposed to be doing. To the extent that if we fail to change that Kel HaKodesh, those words, from Almighty, the Holy Almighty, to the Holy King, we have to say the whole Shema Esrei over again. We must mention Melech, God is a king during these 10 days. He's a king a whole year, but especially he's bringing out his special powers of kingship during these 10 days. The night of Rosh Hashana, first night, which will be next, B'ezras Hashem, Sunday night, after the prayer, when we greet each other, Friday night, we say to each other, Shana Tova Tikosev, we bless everybody, one another. You should be written into a book of goodness, and should be sealed in the book of goodness. To a man, you Tikosev v'sechasem. To a woman, Tikosevi v'sechasemi. That's the Ashkenaz way of greeting on Rosh Hashana. Sfardim have a different way. They say, Tizkeh l'shanim rabot. I think the Sfardim say, Tizkeh l'shanim rabot. That's how they greet each other on Rosh Hashana. Night of Rosh Hashana, first 2 nights, it's customary to eat different types of foods which have a certain significance to the name. We mentioned many times, when Jews eat, we want to eat for a purpose. We don't want to eat just for the sake of eating, for the sake of accomplishing something, to have the right idea about eating. We don't want to eat like animals eat. We want to eat like human beings, and to have a purpose in our meals, in our breakfast and lunch and supper and so on. We mentioned different ideas that have to do with this this important fundamental idea of Judaism, eating for a purpose. But Rosh Hashanah has special significance that we choose to eat foods that have names which will wake us up to think about what this holiday is all about. Depends from where you come, the names of different types of food. They have, in Yiddish, people eat carrots. Carrots in Yiddish means meren, eat carrots. And meren means to increase. Try to Hashem, you should increase our children, increase our families. We should have health, that nobody should be missing from the family. Meren, we think about on Rosh Hashana because it's the day of judgment, when God's going to judge everybody and to decree upon them what's going to happen to them in the coming year. And so on, different types of foods. We also have a minhag, customary to eat the head of an animal or a fish, to take a little part of it, and say we should be l'rosh, we should be for a head and not for a tail. That means we should be on top, we should be recognized as important people and not pushed to the back, and like so many experiences over Jewish history, that we've been pushed down and not recognized as God's people, like put the tail of the animal instead of the head of the animal. So we pray to God that we should be recognized, we should be for a head, important, outstanding, and not pushed to the side, to the back, and be tortured or downtrodden, like so many times that happen over Jewish people. Different types of foods like that, we bring out the point. I think I mentioned last year to you, it's half of a joke, sort of, but they say some people eat a piece of lettuce, a half a raisin, and a piece of celery. So you say, what is a piece of lettuce, a half a raisin, and a piece of celery? So the significance is that let us have a raisin celery. Let us, right? Piece of lettuce. Let us have a half a raisin in celery. So, get it? Lettuce, half a raisin, a piece of celery. Let us have a raisin in celery. So, you can do it if you want. It's an American kind of tradition to start, but good point to it. And so on. Of course, everybody wants to make sure that we hear the shofar. That's a mitzvah in the Torah, one of the 613 obligations of the do mitzvahs, 248 do mitzvahs, to hear shofar on Rosh Hashana. Even though women are not commanded to listen to shofar, but which woman doesn't listen to the shofar? It's a mitzvah for everybody. A man is obligated, a woman that certainly is performing a mitzvah by listening, and it's considered from the most outstanding, special, loved mitzvahs by the Jewish people to listen to the shofar in Rosh Hashana. So some people can't go to shul if they're not well. They have to have somebody come to the house who knows how to blow shofar, and make sure, of course, you have people going to the hospitals, people that are not well, and going to people who are homebound, whatever it is, vessels that have this mitzvah of helping people who can't go to shul, wherever they are, to blow shofar for them. Somebody needs to be helped with hearing the shofar, should call up the rabbi or somebody that in the neighborhood, and they could arrange for the shofar to be blown wherever they might be. And there's also a tradition to go to Tashlich in Rosh Hashana, the first day after the Rosh Hashana dinner, to go to a body of water and to say prayers to God pertaining to Rosh Hashana. Of course, the tradition is that we take our sins and throw them into the water, and a sign we want to get rid of them and let them sink far away from us. Some people have the notion that that's good enough. Okay, God, I went to the river, threw all my sins in the river, and I'm okay. Of course, that's not the idea. The idea is only as a reminder to us what we'd like to do with our sins, but we have to do more than that to get rid of our sins. That's only just a sort of tradition of an idea of thinking about throwing our sins away into the water and should sink and shouldn't be part of us. But the main thing is to really work on ourselves. We shouldn't have any sins. We just can't make small talk about it and say, well, we threw our sins away in the water, now we're okay. We have to work on them and see what we have to, how to fix ourselves up, which I hope to speak about in the future sometime. The reason for going to the water, one of the main reasons is because we want to commemorate and remember Akedas Yitzchak. If you remember, we studied it at great length last year, the 10th Nisayon. God tested Avram Avinu, Abraham, our forefather, 10 very, very difficult tests to see if we'll listen to God with the right attitude, right thoughts. The 10th one was to take his son and bring him as a sacrifice to Hashem. Of course, it never happened. Hashem didn't really mean it, but he wanted to test him before we'll go ahead and do it. But on the way, the Satan tried to stop him, because Satan always tries to stop people from doing good things, especially from such a great act which serves as a schus, a merit to the Jewish people for all times, try to stop him. One of the ways he tried to stop him was by he put a big river in front of him. Avram Avinu went into the water and went up to his nose. He said to God, what more can I do? You got to help me. So it was the Satan doing it, everything in his power to stop Avram Avinu from doing this great act of love to Hashem. So in Rosh Hashana, we read that as a portion of the reading of the Torah in Rosh Hashana. The second day of Rosh Hashana, we read the portion of Avram Avinu, so to remind us that we have to serve God with our whole heart, our whole soul, willing to give away whatever we have for Hashem's service. But we want to remind ourselves also about that river. That Avram Avinu came and did everything in power that he could up to his nose. Once a person does that, God helps him the rest. He sees you really want to do it, you did everything you can do, then God took away the river. It's a very important lesson for us to know. Sometimes we have something difficult to serve Hashem, to do a certain mitzvah. It's very hard. We say to God, it's too hard, I can't do it. So God says, listen, do everything you can, everything in your power to do the mitzvah, and once you do that, I'll help you out, I'll help you finish it. But we have to do ours, then God will do his. So that's one of the main reasons why we go to the water on Rosh Hashana, to remind themselves of the Akedas Yitzchak, of what happened at that time. So some of the highlights of Rosh Hashana. Now, it's working to it. Okay. This thing keeps going off. I don't know. Can you tell if it's working? It's good. Maybe it needs a new battery. The green light's not on. It's good. So the title of tonight's shmooze. Would you like to know what God is thinking about in Rosh Hashana? That's quite a question, huh? Let's delve into the beautiful prayers that we say in Rosh Hashana, and we'll find out. On Rosh Hashana, the prayers basically are the same type of prayers that we have for every holiday. Different is the Musaf service that we say the second prayer during the day of Musaf. That's very different. That has 3 parts to it, which makes the prayer very long. Balchiyos, number 1, we say on Rosh Hashana passages from the Torah referring to God's being the king. Different psukim from the Torah, from the 5 books of Moses, from the prophets, and from the Holy Scriptures. Passages referring to God's greatness, the fact He's the king of the world, He watches what happens, He cares, He knows what we're doing, and He gives reward and punishment accordingly. The second group, Zechronos, number 2, passages of remembrance. God remembers. 2 things that He remembers is number 1, which we'll talk about right away, great length. Everything that everybody does a whole year, and also remembers the covenant, the bris, and the treaty that He made with the Jewish people to keep them alive forever. Those are 2 Zechronos, psukim, passages in the Torah, 5 books of Moses, the prophets, the Holy Scriptures that describe and discuss these 2 things He remembers. He remembers everything that we do, that we think, that we say, and also remembers His covenant. And the third, Shofars, a group of passages from the 5 books of Moses, from the prophets, and from the Holy Scriptures, 10 passages discussing the blowing of shofar. Now, each one of these categories is something to have a special shmooze about. It's a topic that we discussed. I'm choosing tonight to take the second one, Zechronos, remembering. what God remembers. And special prayer is said before mentioning these 10 passages, which I want to delve into, and from this we can see and get a good idea of what's going on in heaven on Rosh Hashana, what God's thinking about, how He judges the world, what He takes into consideration. Very fascinating. Now we're going to quote the words of the prayer that we say. This is said by Ashkenazim, Sfardim, Teimonim. This is an international prayer. Everybody says this prayer. And we start off, Ata Zoicher Masei Olam. You, God, you remember the actions of the whole world. Ufoiket Kol Yitzurei Kedem. And you put upon them punishment and reward. Day of Rosh Hashana, God thinks about everybody, everything, every action, and He judges people, and He decrees upon them. Yitzurei Olam, Yitzurei Kedem, all the creations from before, not only from now. And the question is, people that are not alive anymore, are they also judged? We think people that are alive, God looks at their actions and judges them. People that are not alive anymore, are they judged on Rosh Hashana? He says, yes. Kol Yitzurei Kedem. Why are they judged? How are they judged? I might mention that there are 3 times that God judges the world. One time is on Rosh Hashana, every year. One time is when a person dies, that at that time God judges him and looks back at his life, what he accomplished or what he did not accomplish. And one time in the future, which we have not witnessed yet, which will be called Yom Hadin HaGodol, the great day of judgment. The first 2 are also great days of judgment, but not called Yom Hadin HaGodol, because that is the time of judgment that God will decide who will be able to come alive, the resurrection of the dead, and go to the world to come, live forever. Nitzchias. That's going to be the scary day of judgment in the future. But let's put that aside for right now. But the day of Rosh Hashana, the day of judgment, now how come we say that the people that are not living anywhere are judged? The answer is that even though a person is not alive and not active, but what he did in his lifetime could have an effect on people who are alive. Let's say a person wrote a good book, and in the book they talked about how great to be Jewish, how great to study Torah, how great to keep the laws of the Torah. And someone picks up that book and reads it and is inspired. Because of that, they become better people, more God-fearing people. So that person who wrote the book maybe died 100 years ago. But every person who reads that book and is inspired by it, that's considered as chus, a merit for the person who wrote the book. Will come to Rosh Hashana, the God will say, look, that person, because of him, Yankel was inspired, Sarah was inspired. So he is worthy of getting rewarded. Even though he didn't do anything this year, he was not alive. But what he did at that time, that is a reason why he should be elevated in the hereafter, in the world of souls, we call it Olam HaNeshamas. When a person dies, his neshama goes to a certain world called Olam HaNeshamas, the world of souls that are in a certain place which above our understanding. But that is a reason for elevation for that person. If a person gave charity and left a keren kayemes, he left over money, a fund, to lend out to people. And even though he's not alive anymore, but that fund is being used. And poor people, or rich people, whoever needs a loan, they're able to go and take from that fund and get charity, get a loan for themselves, or a charity fund. Even though the person is not alive now, but still it's considered he did a mitzvah. Look what he did in his lifetime, and it's lasting afterwards also. He will be rewarded afterwards also. But sadly, if the opposite is the case, a person did things in his lifetime to cause problems for other people, even though he's not alive right now. But because of him, people went down in their ideas of what life is all about, what being Jewish is all about. People write books that are anti-Jewish, and anti what we believe in as Jews, that person will have to suffer the consequences also. So, God puts upon reward and punishment everybody, even people who are not alive anymore, according to what they did in their lifetime and according to how much influence and consequences that came out from their actions. This is on Rosh Hashana. God's considering everybody, every creature, every person, that is. In number 4, in front of you is known all of hidden things. Hidden things here refers to taluma. Of course, in Hebrew, taluma means something that is hidden. And the next word, Haman, in Torah is number 5, the multitude of hidden actions from the beginning of time. Now, nistar means hidden, and talumas means hidden. But they're synonyms. But nistar means something that's hidden, but not as much as taluma. Taluma means something that's hidden, totally hidden. Taluma refers to machshavas, the thoughts. Look, have been down over here. God not only knows of all actions that were done secretly, nobody knew about, but God knows about it. All the actions that were done in Speseiser, quietly, with nobody knowing, God sees that. But not only that, but all the thoughts of a person are known to God. That's what talumais, the thoughts, the hidden thoughts, and the multitude of actions from the time of the beginning of the world. Now you say, why does God have to remember that for? What happened at the beginning of the world? What does it have to do with us today? Because there's such a thing as chus avos, it's called. Chut avot. The merit of our forefathers can have an effect on their offspring afterwards for generations. The actions of our great-great-great-grandparents, mothers or fathers or whoever they might be, certain actions that they did at that time, God watches for thousands of generations. I love him, Aleph Dor, but for 2,000 generations, at least. God can consider that person did a great act, whatever it might be, of kindness, goodness, of Mesiras Nefesh, giving himself to God give himself over to God. That can stand and be an everlasting, eternal schus for future generations of that family. And maybe somebody in the family might be in a dangerous situation sometime. They're in a very difficult problem they might be witnessing and living through. And God will look back, and they had his his great-great-grandfather, who did something very outstanding, very special. So God says he did something very special, then his great-great-great-grandchild merits to be helped. And because of that, they will be saved from the difficult situation they might be in. So that's why in Rosh Hashana it's important for God to remember everything from the beginning of the world, all the actions that were done. Because maybe it'll come in handy for somebody. In Rosh Hashana, maybe the decree will not be a good one. Maybe the decree, they themselves don't merit to be given life or health or financial assistance, but because of the schus of the forefathers, that might be the thing that did it, tipped the scale. Therefore, God remembers in Rosh Hashana everything from the beginning of the world, all the actions. There's no forgetting. That is number 6. There's no forgetting by God. What do you mean there's no forgetting? I'll ask you a question. Let's say we're sitting in this room right now, and we'll look around the room, and walk outside, and you'll ask somebody, what did you see in that room? So, probably, I doubt if more than 40% of what's seen in the room would remember outside what you saw, even though our eyes saw them. So there's pictures, this rug, you can't forget naturally this, you can't forget that one. But, there's pictures over here, but the tables and the chairs and the lights and the type of the roof, the ceiling, and so many things are there. What will we remember? Maybe 40%, 50%. Next week, ask people, what did you see in that room last week? Well, it'll probably go down to about 30%. Next year, ask people, what did you see in that room? Maybe 5%, 4%. As time goes on, we start forgetting what we saw. Sometimes we forget everything. Sometimes we don't even remember we walked into the room. Sometimes we don't have enough time elapses if something that's not that important to us. So we forget. By God, there's no such thing as forgetting. Everything is in front of God as if it's happening right now. Not one iota of information is hidden from him. Because if it would be, then his judgment would not be fair, possibly. Because every little thing that's happening, everything that's at that certain time, at that certain situation, can have an effect on what a person's thinking, what he's doing, what he's saying. And therefore, God, everything that's happened is like it's happening right now. Like you make a movie or something, play the movie, everything's there. There's nothing missing. The movie doesn't forget. The film that they took the movie, whatever they call it today, how you do it, but everything is there. There's nothing that's forgotten. That's Haga in Shechav Neisam. There's no forgetting, not one iota, or not one detail is forgotten by God on Rosh Hashana. Holy and that's Rosh Hashana especially brings out the point. Everything is known clearly, specifically, before he'll make any judgment on anybody. Then we say, Ata Zocha is called Hamifal. You remember number 7. All Pula means an action. But it doesn't mean just an action, it means the consequence of an action. Two people can do the same action, but the consequences are very, very different. Two people can steal from somebody else $100. Exact same amount of money from two different people. But the consequences and the result and the effect could be disastrous by one person. By the other person, it could be, doesn't make much difference to him. The poor man is on the way Erev Shabbos to buy Shabbos food. He has $100 in his pocket. That's all that he has. He's going to buy his chicken soup and his kugel and his pacha and his lachmaji and his, what he's going to buy for Shabbos. And on the way, somebody comes and steals $100 from him. He goes to the store, no money, no Shabbos for him. The rich guy's on the way to the store. He has a roll of $100 bills, about 20 rolls, one roll of. Somebody comes and takes $100 bill. He might not even know that it's missing. Oh yeah, I had 20 or 19. Okay, it doesn't bother him too much. Two people did the same action, but the consequence is a totally different consequence, and that has to be considered on Rosh Hashana. Stealing is a big sin, terrible sin, but if it's done to a poor person, the effect is much more severe, and therefore the person is much more guilty for stealing from the poor person. The same way, the opposite. If you give $100 to a poor person, $100 to a rich person, the poor person, $100 to him is like who knows what. So it's a mitzvah to give charity to somebody who's poor. If you give $100 to a rich man, he's a nice friend of yours, give him a present $100, say, thank you very much, he has a smile, puts it in his pocket and forgets about it. So the same act of nice thing, you gave $100 to two people. But look what this person got out of it, look what that person got out of it. So naturally, he'd be much more rewarded. The one who gave to the poor person than gave to the rich person. God remembers the Rosh Hashana. Everything that was the consequences and the result and the effect of the actions that we do. God doesn't just look at the action. We as human beings, we can't know this thing at all. When it comes to a court, a human court on this world, they don't go according to that. If you stole, you get punished according to the Torah law. There's the rich man, the poor man, that no matter who you are, no matter who you stole from. The law is, you stole from somebody, you have to pay double back sometimes, and 4 or 5 times back. You have to return the law is the same to everybody, because we as human beings cannot make these cheshbonos and these calculations. Was he poor? Was he rich? We don't know these things. Only God knows this. Based in our court down here, we have to have a law for everybody, and that is no difference whether he's this, whether he's that, he's poor, he's rich. Everybody's the same treatment. But by God, it's different treatment to everybody. Every person, depending who is and who he stole from, who he did a favor to, who he did kindness to. That's a number 8. The Yitzur. The Yitzur means I translate it over here, how a person's character traits were molded. Yitzur means molded. Like Maimonides talks about, that 2 people again can do the same action, but they're judged differently. Why? Because everybody has different character traits. Some people were born with a personality, a character trait of anger. They get angry very quickly. And some people don't get angry so quickly. No pat on their back. That's why they're created. Some people have the tendency of anger. Some people don't have such a tendency of anger. So now, if the person who has a tendency to get angry got angry and he hit somebody, and the person who doesn't have such a tendency to be angry hit somebody. So it makes a big difference, because God judges. We're not allowed to act with our anger. Hitting somebody is against the Jewish law to hit somebody. So how can you hit somebody? Well, I'm so angry, I couldn't hold myself back. Well, the one who has the tendency to be angry has a little bit of an excuse. God will be a little more easygoing with him. But you don't have such a tendency to be angry. Why did you hit somebody? You should have controlled yourself. Or the opposite also applies. If they hold themselves back, they didn't hit somebody. They're so angry they wanted to hit somebody, but he held himself back. He ran to the other room. He ran outside, grit his teeth. He held himself back. Who will be more rewarded? The one who had the bigger nisayon, the one who had the bigger challenge, and he held himself back and didn't do anything. He'll be rewarded much more than the person who doesn't have such a tendency to be angry. He held himself back. So not so great. Okay, it's pretty good. We'll reward you, but not the same as the other person. So this has to be considered in Rosh Hashana. God is going to judge everybody. He judges them according to their nature, their character traits, what they are more prone to fall into the trap of character traits, whether it might be anger we're talking about, maybe it might be stinginess, might be more benevolent, according to the character traits. Someone gives charity, 2 people give charity, he gives $100, he gives $100. But he's a stingy guy by his character trait. And he got a hold of himself, he gave the charity $100. He gets a big pat on the back. The guy who's created with a very benevolent type of nature, it's a mitzvah, he'll get rewarded, but it's not the same as the other person. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. Kol hayitzur, Rosh Hashana. Now, this is talking about so far the past of what happened and the different circumstances of what happened. Then we mention that we have over here in number 9. God looks into the future, not only the past. All future generations. Why? I'll give you an example what this is talking about. If you remember the story, beginning of the second book of Moses, Shemais, Exodus, where the Jews are in bondage or enslaved in Egypt, and Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses is born, the one who's going to take them out of Egypt, to get to Torah on Mount Sinai. And it says over there that he was, the whole story, that they wanted to kill him. They killed all the Jewish babies, the male babies. They killed them. The mother put him in a little boat in the river, and so on. He was saved. And the daughter of Paro, King Paro herself, came and saved him and took him to the king's palace. Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. And he went out, and he used to go out and be very upset to watch his brethren, Jewish brethren, being enslaved in Egypt. He didn't stay in the palace and say, well, I have nothing to worry about. I'm a stepson of the king. But on the contrary, he went out to see and to feel the slavery and the pain of the Jewish people. And he saw that the Egyptian was beating one of the Jewish people. Not going to right now why he was beating him, but whatever the reason was, he's beating one of the Jewish men. And he's almost ready to kill him. So Moshe Rabbeinu went, and it said, he looked here, he looked there, and he saw there's no man. And he killed the Mitzri. He himself killed the Mitzri. Because he was killing the Jew, he killed the Mitzri. He killed the Egyptian. Now what does it mean? He saw Ein Ish. He looked here and he looked there. Each one has a special, deep meaning to it. But he saw Ein Ish, our rabbis tell us, he said, Ein Ish Tzadik Yotzei Mimenu. Moshe Rabbeinu was a prophet. He looked into the future. And he looked, will this Mitzri, will this Egyptian have any descendants that they will be tzaddikim, that they will be righteous people? If he saw coming out from him somebody righteous, somebody a tzaddik, he wouldn't have killed him. Maybe would bang him on the floor, whatever it is, he would have stopped him. But he wouldn't have killed him. Because if somebody good is going to come out from him, then he has to leave him alone. But he saw there's nobody good coming out of him. So therefore he killed him. And this is a very, very important idea in God's calculations of judging. He looks into the future to see this person has somebody tzaddik, somebody great is going to come out, the next generation, 10 generations down the line. So then they have the power to save the person now and to give them as a chus, the merits for them to be written down in the book of life, the book of prosperous. That is something that must be looked into the future. Only God can do that. A court down in this world can't look into the future. They have to look at what's in front of their eyes. This guy did something wrong, you punish him. He did something right, you don't punish him. But you can't look into it. But God looks into the future. That's what we say over here. At Soif Kol Hadoros, until the end of all generations, God looks into the future before he passes judgment on anybody. Well, I see time's getting late and we're only half through our... Well, maybe I'll have to skip over some of the things. But we mentioned in number 11, we mentioned in our prayer, this is the day, I translate over here, anniversary of the first day of creation. Let's remember Rosh Hashana is the day that God created the world. The sixth day of creation, we say he created the world because man was created on the sixth day. That's the main creation of the world. So we say the creation of the world was on the sixth day because man started on the first day naturally. He ordered, let there be light, the first day, but came to the sixth day was Rosh Hashana, when Adam and Eve were created. And this day was a very happy day in God's eyes, so to speak. Because it says in the Pasuk, And the sixth day, everything he created is very good. It was a day of happiness, so to speak, by God. He was very satisfied with the creation that he had, for the purpose that he had in mind why he created the world. It was a very special day, a very good day. And that's the day he chose to judge the Jewish people, judge the world. Because if it's a day of happiness, of goodness, then the judgment will be a better type of judgment. Imagine if God would make the day of judgment on Tisha B'Av, on the day of the saddest day of the world, of the year. That would be terrible. The judge the people on the saddest day of the world would come out. The judgment would not be very nice and acceptable. It would be very upsetting if God would judge us on the saddest day of the world. Judge us on the happiest day of the world. The day the world was created, and God's eyes was toiv ma'od, very good. Therefore, so to speak, God's in a good mood, so to speak. We're using our terms. God doesn't have moods, but we use in our terms. We're using it because we have no better way of describing it. It was the day of Rosh Hashana that God chose to judge the world in order to make a better judgment and more of a judgment that we'll be more happy with, we'll be able to live with. And number 12, and on this day of judgment, all the nations of the world will be judged and decreed upon them, which one will to go to war, and which nation will go have peace. That's all decided on Rosh Hashana. We don't realize, but there's hundreds of years that the world did not go without wars. We don't read about the wars because they're not close to our shores and they're not relevant to us. But if you listen to the news of other countries going around the world, people are suffering from wars all the time. People being killed, men, women, and children all over the world, especially in the primitive countries or third world countries. There's wars going on. And we are very upset right now with the chance of Israel, of what's going on with Iran, so on, with the Arab neighbors, always a threat of war, of danger. And this is decided in Rosh Hashana, which country will go to war and which country will have peace. That's why we have to pray for all these things in Rosh Hashana. We give it fervently, pray that things should go the way we'd like them to go. Which country will have hunger and which country will have bountiful food supply. The number 12. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that there's thousands of people dying from hunger every day in the world, children mainly, malnutrition from different places and countries in the world, that they're dying from diseases, from lack of food. We, Baruch Hashem, don't have the problem in this country. Of course, they say a lot of people are hungry, they're not dying from hunger. But this is all decreed in Rosh Hashana, which countries will have a big crop of food for them to eat from, and so on. We mentioned number to call Hayitzur. Again, the word Yitzur. And here, condition the person was created. Different people are created in different ways. Some people are very smart. Some people are not so smart. Some people are healthy. Some people are not so healthy. And that has an effect on the way they act and how they conduct their lives. Some people are born with handicaps. Some people are born very healthy without any handicaps. And God has to judge accordingly, according to their capabilities of what they're able to perform, according to what they're able to do. This is all taken into consideration on the day of judgment, because you can't expect a person who's handicapped to do the same as a person who's not handicapped. So therefore it has to be taken into consideration. Masish v'kedasai, number 14, that we mentioned in our prayer in Rosh Hashana. People's actions and what God expects out of them, what He gave them, the capabilities. Certain people are capable of different actions, performing different purposes in their life. And they have especially, God gave them the talent to do so. Some people don't live up to their talent. They get involved in things that they shouldn't be involved with. Say, for instance, they give an example of that. You have a soldier in the army, and he's supposed to be watching the border. Give him a gun and tell him, you make sure nobody crosses the border. So he's there for 1 week, 2 weeks. It's very boring. He sees the guys in the airplanes there, they're having a good time flying around. It sounds much more interesting. So what does he do? He loses the border, he leaves the guy, goes into the airplane. In the meantime, the enemy comes across the border. What did you do? You're supposed to watch it. I got bored. I didn't feel like doing that. The airplane's much more exciting. Go to the airplane. You didn't do what you're supposed to. That's your job. You leave your job, you're doing the wrong thing. You just can't do what you feel like doing. What did God give a person the capabilities to do? Some people are very learned. They can put themselves into learning. They have good heads, sharp heads. Some people are good in business. They might go into business, make a lot of money, and give a lot of charity. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Some people have leadership qualities. They can be great leaders. Some people don't, I don't want to be a leader. It's too much difficult. I have to prepare too much. God wants you to be a leader. Jewish people need leaders. Some people just neglect the talent they have. Some people are good speakers. If you're a good speaker, so use it for service of Hashem. Use your mouth to speak to people, to give them the right kind of ideas, the right kind of chizuk, to get them to feel good, go to different places, go to a hospital, speak for the people, the patients. You can do a lot of good things with speaking. Some people have a good voice to sing. So use your voice to sing. Use it for the right purpose, for the right thing. Everybody has their thing that they're able to accomplish. That's pekudah. God put them in the world for a certain purpose. Are they performing their purpose or not? God looks at Rosh Hashana. Or they do other things that they enjoy better, doing having a good time and wasting the time with things that are not important, and they're not using the talents. They'll come 120 years from now after a person leaves the world, and God will say to them, what did you do? I gave you all these great talents to perform great things, and you wasted it for nothing. So Rosh Hashana, this is considered, what are we doing, or what are we supposed to be doing? Malus Matzadik Gover, the actions of a person's footsteps, referring to a person might be doing something wrong or something right, but sometimes people do something wrong, and they feel bad about it, and they don't run to do it, they do it reluctantly. And some people do something wrong, they run to it, they have a shmak, they enjoy doing it. It makes a big difference. How they go to the action that they're doing. Some people can do a good act, but they do it very sluggishly. They don't feel like doing it. They come, they push themselves, they schlep themselves to do it. And some people come to do a good action, so they run to do it. They do it because they love to do something good. How do we do a mitzvah? We can do the same mitzvah, but do we do it with the right feeling, with the right oomph, right zest, or we do it with a very laziness and sluggishness? That's something that also God considers in Rosh Hashana. How do we do the favor? How do we do the mitzvah? It all comes into the calculation. Judging every person, God judges every person, every act that he does, everything has to be considered in the act that he does. Person's thoughts and the strategies Strategy. Some people have strategies to get out of doing a mitzvah. They see the person coming, collecting tzedakah. They go the other way. They see them down the street, we go to the other street. They don't want to be approached to give charity. I once came to a home. I wasn't collecting charity, as a matter of fact. I was there for a different reason. And the child came to the door, and I heard the mother scream, "Tell him I'm not home, tell him I'm not home." She said to the child, "That's very good, the way to train your children. But you're not home. You can't do charity, you don't want to give any charity." Talk about strategies to get out of it. Not to do the right thing. The great tzaddikim used to do strategy to get to do the right thing. We're told that one of the great rabbis in the Talmud, when he used to see the Gabbai Tzedakah, the one who collected charity, he used to run after him, and he used to run away from him. He knew he couldn't afford it. He used to run after the one who collected tzedakah. He was a poor man, and he didn't want to ask him for charity. So when he used to see him, the man collecting to go the other direction. He didn't want the great man to see him because he'd give him charity they can't afford. He would run after him to give the charity. Depends what attitude the person has. Tachbuloisa, what kind of strategy if the person tries to get into do a good deed, or how do you get out of doing a good deed? That God considers also. You say, well, he didn't do anything wrong. Look at him, but look how he got out of doing good things. He could have done something good and made out of his way to not to be challenged and not to have the opportunity. I should put it that way. He made himself out of the picture of opportunity to do a good thing. He might be able to help somebody, to talk to somebody, to tell some good words to people, but you keep away. You may have to go to a hospital or visit somebody, but you make sure not to hear about who's sick, who needs help. Don't hear about it, out of sight, out of mind. These are all strategies of people, how they try to live their life. Strategies to do the right thing, strategies to do the wrong thing. This is what also considered on Rosh Hashana. Well, we covered most of the things. And we end off in our prayers at number 18. Happy and praiseworthy is the man who does not forget God. When it comes to Rosh Hashana, of course, that in itself is supposed to wake us up, start thinking about our actions, and go over all these things we mentioned here and see what we're guilty of, what we're not guilty of, how we can make ourselves better, what can we do to make our coming year to some more action-packed with good deeds, make it more fulfilling. We're supposed to think of Rosh Hashana, think about our actions, our thoughts, our words. But happy is the man who does not forget Hashem, not only Rosh Hashana, but the day after Rosh Hashana, the day after Yom Kippur, in the middle of December when it's snowing, or in the middle of August when it's hot. Under all circumstances, a great man, great people, they never forget Hashem. They always think about Hashem. What can I do to make myself better? Am I living the right way that I should live? They're always introspect into their lives. They're thinking about their actions and how they can live a better life, a life that Hashem wants. That's Asher Ish. We end up in the prayer of Rosh Hashana. Happy is the man who does not forget you. That ever, not only Rosh Hashana, that we have to think about Rosh Hashana also, to try to think about God not only on when we're under the pressure of Rosh Hashana, of Day of Judgment, but we have to think about God all aspects of our life, every day of our life. Let's try to make sure that every day of our life is fulfilled. We do something good, like the Rabbi Chaim says. A person should not let one day of his life go by without doing chesed, without doing a kind act to somebody. As God does kindness every day to us, we have to reciprocate to do kindness to somebody. Not one day of our life should go by without doing a chesed to somebody. This is some of the things we have to think about in Rosh Hashana. So, this is something great, the greatness of this great prayer of Rosh Hashana, this great prayer that we say, covering. I said, what's God thinking about? Is God thinking about all the different aspects of a person's life? The past, the present, the future, who we are, what makes us tick, what motivates us. And this all has to be taken into consideration before God passes judgment on us. So we hope that we'll be judged favorably by God He should look at our goodness. He should give us a chance to live and to live a life that he'll be proud of, that we'll be proud of, the children will be proud of, the Jewish people will be proud of, and we should inscribe in the book of life, happiness, and everything good, and ksivos to everybody. And now, maybe if anyone would like to comment or say something, it would be very much appreciated.
Rabbi, you mentioned at the very beginning that a rich man and a poor man must be treated equally. Cannot favor one over the other. Now, if you're going to issue a penalty...
No, I did not say...
No?
The court of this world, everybody's treated the same. Not in God's court. Not in God's court. No, rich man...
But even in this man, if you charge a $100 penalty to a poor man, he's going to feel it much more than a rich man.
The person will be punished if he steals from a poor man more than a rich man. Not in the court of human beings, that they can't make difference between a rich and a poor. God's court makes a difference.
Well, let's say in the people's court on earth.
Yeah, right, okay.
Now, wouldn't it be fairer to charge a rich man a percentage of what he stole, that he would feel more so than a poor man who has to pay a fixed amount? The percentage will be in proportion to what a rich man's capability.
Well, according to
same amount, that's not fair.
See, that's my point, was that a court of human beings cannot make these type of calculations. We don't know who's rich, who's not. The poor man might have money stashed in his mattress. He might be richer than the rich man. We have to have a set of laws that are the same for everybody. We can't in this world know what he really owns. We have a lot of people that look poor, they eat old bread, and they own real estate all over the world. They're very rich, and some rich people look rich. And today especially, a lot of rich people lost all their money, but they keep up a reputation. They want people to know how poor they are. I know people like that, a lot of people that are like that today, that they're very embarrassed, they try to keep up that same reputation. So we as human beings and mortals, we cannot know who's rich and who's poor. We have to go according to the law, according to everybody. Only God can start making differences. He's rich, he's poor, he knows, but we don't know. Oh no, you can't. Oh no. Oh no, you can't. No. So especially in the cash business, you don't know what income tax is, and you don't know who's rich and who's poor. It's a very, very tricky thing. The IRS is working all the time to find out who's rich and who's poor. They have a very hard time to really know. But thank you for your comment. Any other questions or comments?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of what he said, bringing on that topic.
Yeah.
If stealing is not based on the Torah, so what's the difference whether you steal from the rich or you steal from the poor? You're still stealing. It doesn't really matter what the effect, the cause of effect would be. You're still doing the same sin. And why is it okay to steal from the rich to give to the poor?
Stealing
It's
is
still
a
stealing.
Sin. Stealing is a sin punishable by God. But the amount of punishment can make a difference who you stole from. That's the difference. Stealing is no different. Stealing is a sin, a big sin, a terrible sin. But it's worse if he steals from a poor man than a rich man. So there's no difference in the basic sin of stealing. But going beyond the basics, there's a difference who you steal from.
Okay, beyond the basics is the difference of stealing. So it's okay to steal from a guy, but don't steal from a Jew. It's okay to steal to the government
Whoa.
and not steal from the
Steal from a goy?
IRS.
What is that?
But it's still stealing.
Where does it say that?
No.
Okay to steal from a goy.
It's still based
You're not
on...
a steal to anybody.
No, okay. But you're saying it's okay to steal. It's not so bad to steal from the rich.
I didn't say not so bad. It's terrible. It's terrible. But it's worse to steal from a poor person. It's terrible to steal from anybody.
It's still
terrible.
stealing. It's just saying,
That's right,
I'll
stealing.
steal from the government because the government has more money than stealing
You
from
said that. I didn't
the
say
person.
that. You said that.
No,
I
I'm
didn't say
just
that.
making a comment of what you're saying. Stealing is still stealing. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
who you're stealing from.
Exactly. 100%.
And it
Stealing
doesn't
is
matter
terrible.
what level.
Steal is terrible for no matter who you steal from. It's terrible. But some people it's terrible from. It's worse than terrible. That's the difference. But stealing is terrible. Absolutely. Yes, we have a comment over here.
Many times you get people coming to
Yes.
many times you have people coming to the house, ring your bell, asking for tzedakah, just charity.
Yes.
And it's very difficult sometimes to know, are they legitimate? You want to give, they look, but is it just going in their pocket, or are they really representing an organization that needs the help? You know, is it just for their own personal? Sometimes it feels like they're cheating.
Well,
Is it-
it's very hard to know.
You want to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, according to the Jewish law, if somebody comes for charity, they're asking for food, you have to give them food right away. You can't check, because by the time you check on them, they might be dead from starvation. But if they're coming for other things, you're allowed to check in to see it if they're authentic. But who has time to go checking at everybody? So many people come all the time and asking for charity. If you're going to sit down and check on everybody, you won't be able to do anything else. Because so what we usually do is we give them something. We save our big donations for those charities that we know that they are on the level. Big donations, small donations, we give them $1, whatever it is, what they want to give. Depends how rich a person is. Or maybe Rockefeller would give maybe $100, like we give $1, whatever it is. But for those people, just not to say no, refuse them, you give them something. But we save our main donations for those charities that we are close to and we know that they're authentic. Yeah, well, they are very. They are Jewish heroes. I always say it's very important for every Jewish person to go collecting tzedakah, collecting at least one time in your life. You got to be on the other side of the door once and knock on the door and see how it feels. Then you feel differently when they knock on your door. See, you have to go on the other side of the door every time they knock on the door. A poor person, they hoping that you are not nobody's home. They're hoping not going to answer the door. Because it's very, even not collecting for yourself, but collecting money is not a simple thing. And I think everybody should all experience being on the other side of the door once, and then we'll treat them differently when they knock on the door. And people who collect for others, they're not dependent, they're heroes. They're going around collecting for organizations, for other people who need money, and they're willing to put themselves out, and they're very special people who do that. It's not easy. It's not easy to do it. So you have to look at them the right way.
Rabbi, we said when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the Mitzri, he looked right and left.
So that means it's a good meaning. I mean, maybe life ain't each, but that's what I was talking about. No,
Yeah.
The future come out from him.
So you say he saw that nothing coming out for him.
Right.
But he's a Mitzri. He's not a Jew.
Yeah.
Still he can do something good for the Jewish people.
Maybe he could do something Jewish, or maybe he'll have a convert to Judaism. The future generations could convert to Judaism. Or, as a non-Jew, they can do good favors for the Jews. There are people during the Holocaust who put their lives on the line, they saved Jews. So there are non-Jews who are righteous people. So it's also possible.
Thank you.
Those are also important.
These attributes that you just applied to someone who goes around collecting tzedakah,
Yes.
do those same attributes apply to someone who goes around collecting money for tzedakah as a professional solicitor who gets a certain percentage of what he collects? There are plenty of people who earn a living from that.
Well, it depends on what his ideas for doing it is. Usually people who go collecting could make a very better living by having a different profession. But they do it because they want to do the right thing and help. They have to live, so they have to take a percentage for them to have a salary and wages. But the main purpose is to help other Jews or help different organizations. There's some people who do it just for the business, but any other job, but they chose this type of job. Depends what their motivation is. Depends why they're doing it. But most people working for organizations are not becoming rich. They don't make so much money. They're doing it because they want to help other Jews, help different organizations, help other people who need whatever they might need, whether it's doctor bills, or whether it's food, or whether it's education. But most of them are doing it because they want to help, and they need to get money to live with, so they take some of it for the wages. But the main purpose is for the other person, not for themselves. But some people are not like that. So God knows who's doing it for the right purpose, not the right purpose. Nothing wrong with the person doing it like that, but it's to get the reward of doing charity. Because in charity depends what a person's motivation is. Any other questions or comments coming up to Rosh Hashana? Anybody have any tips how we can tip the scale for a goodness, something we can do, something, a suggestion how God can look at us in a good way, what we should do to tip the scale in our favor? That would be nice, a good tip. Last minute, 2 days left to Rosh Hashana.
Women don't have that many mitzvahs, right? You don't get that many mitzvahs as a woman?
They have less mitzvahs than a man, yes.
For a woman, what? Lighting Shabbat candles?
Well, there's a lot of mitzvahs for women, a lot of them. Yeah. Well, to separate challah, take the challah from it so that you separate. That's a mitzvah. You don't have to do it, but it's a mitzvah if you do it. Yeah. You don't have that many mitzvahs. Why don't you have many mitzvahs? The women have plenty of mitzvahs to do. They have a lot of mitzvahs. We have to study Torah. All the study Torah that for the law. The women have to get the charity. You have to take care of the family, take care of your children. That's it. Of course, that's a fantastic. Again, depends why you're doing it. If you do it because you want it for God's sake, then it's a mitzvah. You do it because animals have children. Everyone has children. But what you're thinking about when you take care of your children, taking children because you want them to grow up to be God-fearing people, serve Hashem. So then it's a great mitzvah. The woman has not many other mitzvahs, but that mitzvah takes up all the time. That's a mitzvah that goes on for years and years and never stops. Watching your children, take care of the family, that's a fantastic mitzvah. But if you have to have the right reason for it, the right motivation for it, that's important.
I guess it doesn't hurt to make those holidays.
No, it's a very expensive. Especially if it tastes good, for sure. You have to keep Shabbos, keep Yom Tov. Okay, so have a very good year, and everything should go well. And next time we meet at the JCC, what day? The 24th, I think it is. 24th. Okay. Have a wonderful Rosh Hashana, everybody.